Hi, my name is Brad Young, and welcome to the Peak Performance Podcast. And today we're going to be doing episode 15, Unleash Your Potential, how strength training transforms your performance. Strength training does make a big difference. Strength training can take you to the next level. Strength training helps build resilience. Because it's not just lifting weights. You build a callous mind, you build resilience, you focus, because I can assure you, no matter who you are, if you got 300 pounds sitting on you, you're going to pay attention and focus to what you're doing. It gives you the power to excel in other areas of life. It shows you what you can do. That's what it's about, especially, from a personal level. When you're looking at strength training, it's about taking on challenges, because, if you can conquer the gym, you can conquer everything else in your life. You can elevate your performance. It's a mindset. It's a true mindset and a mental outlook. We all started somewhere. We all start somewhere trying to get that peak performance. People make it to different places. I used to work out with a professional bodybuilder that placed very high in the Arnold. I've worked out with quite a few professional athletes over the years, including retired professional football Hall of Famers, people like that, and all kinds of other people. I've met them in the gym, and when you're in there, you don't realize it, but if you walk into a gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, these are your cleaners right here. These are your workers, because they're in there at 5 o'clock in the morning. They're hitting that first before they go to work or wherever they go. 5 a.m. You see your 5 p.m. crowd, they're brave because they're battling everybody else for the weight, so they want to fight for everything. And then you get to 7 p.m., you're working out before you go to bed, but it doesn't matter when you work out. It's when it's what you get done, just like your noon workout, things like that. But, I always look at those 5 a.m. people and I say, because they're sacrificing sleep to be able to go in and perform and feel better for the day. Because, when you get through lifting weights and strength training, you feel better. Luckily I've got plenty here in my home. I've got multiple gyms and, all kinds of equipment things now, but I'll never forget, started many years ago and I didn't even know how to grip the bar right. I was so scrawny. I was so scrawny, it was unbelievable. But, I had sleep apnea, didn't realize it, and other issues. And guys showed me how to grip the bar. And I still grip it the same way, use your ring finger, the outside of the bar, to be able to, to lift in the right, to keep it basically, it keeps you at a wider grip to where you're not using all triceps, or you're not putting too much on your shoulders, you're balancing it out. And so, that showed me something right there. I learned something on the first day. But I was so skinny, I'll never forget it though. And I remember, oh gosh, it's been so long ago, because I'm 47 now, and I was probably 15 years old then. It might have been a little earlier, might have been a little younger, but it wasn't that much. But when we look at strength training, it goes beyond, the physical. People think it's, people in there work out for ego, but it's, it helps relieve stress, anxiety, all these other things. It helps you build resilience, increase your focus, and power through. Helps me sleep. If I go work out at night, as long as I don't drink too much pre-workout, if I go in, I work out really hard, and I feel good. I feel good about myself. I'm able to go to sleep. I'm able to burn off that energy. Or if I go in and work out really early, I don't feel, I can tackle the day. I don't, I know I did what I needed to do that day. And so, because it matters, this is all about your mindset. So, strength training is about strength. It's about, gaining strength. And we're going to talk about a few different techniques. We're going to talk about, a few different techniques. I'm going to have an attachment that talks about the techniques where you can evaluate yourself, what techniques might be best for you. But, again, this is something that, that you have to decide. I'm not, here to cure anything or do anything of that nature. I have a PhD, but that is not a medical doctor. So understand that I've got multiple best-selling books in sports performance and strength training. And so I know what I'm talking about, and I practically applied it. And that's what the Peak Performance Podcast is all about, is practically applying these things, because you have to be able to practically apply, because the information you can't practically apply, to me is just completely worthless. You have to be able to use it. So when we start talking about strength training strategies, we look at what we normally start off with. Everybody starts off here, most likely it's progressive overload. Well, that matters because you get stronger, you build muscles, and you keep improving. You build muscle, you get stronger, and it can be your golden ticket, because if you gradually increase the weight or resistance, you can push your body to adapt and grow. The challenge is not to overdo it, because you can overtrain, you can injure yourself. So you have to be careful and not take reckless leaps. You got to build that foundation. It's just kind of like in the last podcast, I talked about heart rate training and putting together a video to show heart rate training zones and to show all those things. The attachment was there, but it's the same thing though. You got to build a foundation with your heart rate training to be able to run marathons and ultra marathons. You have to do that. And so the same thing with strength training, because I guess number one, you want to have functional strength. You want to have functional muscles. You want to be able to utilize them. You don't want to be so big that you can barely fit in this chair or move or whatever. You got to think about what a proper strategy is for you, unless you are a power lifter or whatever. But for the general person, you don't want to be so wide you can't fit in a chair. So when you think about progressive overload, you don't want to overdo it. You just track and you just go up a little weight, a little intensity, keep good form, and try to keep yourself from getting injured, because the times that we get injured is when form gets out. Every time you start bouncing your weights, doing things like that, that's when you get injured. It happens every time when you start trying to do more than your body is capable of. You want to push yourself beyond those limits, but you got to figure out where those limits really are and be able to utilize some common sense. Now, one way that we used to utilize back several years ago was pyramid training. So this is another type of progressive overload. So pyramid training is where you gradually increase the weight. On the way up and on the way down, you decrease the weight. And so it obviously mimics a pyramid. You start off with a few reps at like 135, and you just continue to go up till you get to 300-400 pounds wherever you're going to go, or higher. I mean, people go higher, but it's the shape of a pyramid. So at the bottom of the pyramid, you're doing the most reps, you're doing the least at the top, and then you work your way back down. And so once you get up to wherever you're at, let's say you're at 365, you did 365. Okay, well, you pull the 25 pounds off of each side. Now it's time. You got to get 3 more, whatever, and you work your way down till you're just completely fatigued, but you got to keep your form. And so it benefits you in having strength and endurance. And it really improves your strength. I mean, there's been, many times, at 205 pounds, I could walk in and go to 315 without even a spot, not even think about a spot, not be repping, and, that's pretty strong. But, the thing of it is, the pyramid is versatile. You can effectively use it to build strength and also challenge your endurance. So that's why I like a lot of that, because you're changing the rep load and reps in a structured way. So, let's say you do 135, then you go to 175, then you go to 205, 225, or you can make bigger jumps, then you go to 245, 275, 275, usually go to 300 or 315, go up. Then we get 315, you put 25s on each side, you go 365. Then if you really want more, you put 25 more on each side or whatever. But you change the weight depending on how you're feeling right then, and you're able to pyramid up and down, and it really makes a gigantic difference in your strength and endurance. It's a very good way. If I give myself, if I had to choose 3 to 5 weeks to be able to do a bench press competition, that's what I would do. I'd pyramid train, most likely, because I wouldn't have time to German volume train, which we're getting ready to talk about. The German volume training is very effective as well. And again, it's going to lead to some serious peak performance. But, the pyramid training, all you got to do is you got to make sure you focus on that proper form and have a spotter. And all these things have a spotter. I don't use a spotter anymore for a lot of things, but you know, I know what I'm doing. I don't do anything that I know that I'm going to get, drop or get caught on me or anything like that. And I use a lot of hammer strength and other stuff like that to be able to avoid the spotter situation when I'm busy. But the next thing we're going to talk about is going to be German volume training. German volume training is the 10 by 10 method. A guy named Hoppy told me about this many years ago, and he was a bench press champion. And this guy didn't look like much, and you would not believe that this guy could bench press 500 plus pounds, but he could. I mean, he didn't look like, I swear if you see the guy, you would never in your life believe that Hoppy could do it. But this guy, he was ridiculously strong. And he said, well, Brad, he said, here's how I did it. I did German volume training. So over the years, I've researched German volume training, and it builds serious muscle because it's 10 by 10. You do 10 sets of 10. And so, it tests your endurance, tests your mental grit, but it definitely tests your strength and your discipline. And so if you look up any programs on German volume training, it can give you a really good idea about German volume training because it's very effective. It's the volume of it is going to make you exhausted. Again, you need a spotter. When you start light too. You start at 60% of your 1 rep max. So you figure your 1 rep max and you do 60% of it 10 times. Then you rest 10 times, 2 or 3 minutes or whatever it calls for that program. And then you do supplementary exercises in between all of this, as far as along with it, you don't just do 10 sets of 10 bench and you're done for the week. No, you've got other things you can do. You can use the 10 by 10 method for so many things, and it's very effective. It's very effective. Like I said, Hoppy was very strong. It's unbelievable. But now here's what I do. I do high intensity interval training. And so this is another of your strength techniques. And so as we look at high intensity training, it boosts your cardio, burns calories, and it builds strength and endurance in a fraction of the time, which is true. I do circuits, and they are ridiculous sometimes. And so, I start off with a decline or a regular bench, and I do like 225, like 25 times or so. All right, then I go do bus drivers, or I do some pulls. All right, same thing, 225 pulls, do bus drivers with 45. And that's just, essentially, you're doing front lateral raises, do like 12 to 15, and then go do 50 dips, like real dips, like full body dips. And then do 25 of your bent over rows, with 225, and then do 25 pull-ups, like real pull-ups, not slinging, not CrossFit pull-ups, but pull-ups. We do pull-ups. I try to do crossovers, 50 reps of crossovers. Then do abs. I do like weighted abs. Do as many as I possibly can. Just as many. So if I can do 100, 120 weighted, hey, I do as many as I possibly can. Then I go work. I do I do shoulder shrugs. So I go get at least 100-pound dumbbell shoulder shrugs and do them 50 times, the minimum, usually 100, 120. Then do curls. Then I go run for 10 minutes. I do a fast walk or run for 10 minutes, and then I go up in weight. So your high intensity interval training, just think about that circuit right there. You just did a ton of weight. Now you're going to run for 10 minutes. So you're getting all that in there, but you got to stretch. You got to make sure that, again, you know your body and you understand it, but the catch is it's too demanding. You push too hard, too often, and it can catch up with you. And it's true. I'm in there, breathing hard, and I had a young man say something. I said, man, he was kind of insinuating that I was breathing hard. And I thought, man, you know what? I'm 47 and I'm in, way better shape than he even thought about being. He just don't understand what I'm doing. That's the thing about it. People don't understand, what I'm doing. But you switch up the high intensity interval for different things, And then I've got a 4-minute muscle, one that's the same thing, but you get what I'm saying. You do the high intensity intervals to where, your cardio, you're boosting your cardio, you're burning fat, calories, you're building strength and endurance. So I like it. It keeps you good, it keeps you lean and strong. And then you got periodization. Now it's a game changer now. Because it structures your training to help you grow, recover, and avoid plateaus. It's kind of a secret weapon. The challenge, it takes planning and consistency to do periodization. It can feel overwhelming. but especially if somebody's starting off, but how to get it. You define your goal, whether you're chasing strength, endurance, or peak performance. Break your training into phases. Focus on hypertrophy, hypertrophy, then strength, then recovery. Track your progress, adjust as needed. But essentially, you may need a fitness coach that, but read on periodization. Periodization, it can really make a difference because it takes a lot of planning, but it helps you define your goal. You break it into your phases. So hypertrophy is where you're going to build your muscle volume, then strength, and then recovery. And so you're going to build muscle volume and strength at the same time. So that's what you want. You want to be bigger and stronger. And so another workout strategy is body weight. People don't really even think about body weight as much as they should, but you can use your body weight to do so many things. Like I was talking about the dips that I do. I do a lot of dips. I have dips outside that were, I could do dips. I love to do pull-ups. I like to do, any kind of body weight thing. I mean, box jumps. I mean, chin ups, whatever. We do the military. When you do those PT programs, you're doing those things. You're doing your push-ups. You're doing all those things. Body weight exercises can get you ripped and strong, and it's very functional strength. So you can practically apply your body weight exercises to almost anything. But the progression is going to be slower, obviously, compared to weights, so it can cap your strength, over time. And also, you've got to be careful from overloading yourself. Because when you're doing your body weight exercises, it's pretty easy to be able to overload. And basically you create yourself tendonitis and other problems because you're doing too many reps. You get so strong. It's like me doing sets of 50 dips. I mean, these are full dip dips. Now I do multiple sets during a circuit. And I can tell you a story though real quickly. All right, so I used to do dips. I would do, like sets of 100 plus, and then I would actually at the old Gold's Gym, I would put a what you call it? I put a belt, like a weightlifting belt with a chain on it. It's a weightlifting belt with a chain, and I'd have the 100-pound weight there. We had a 100-pound weight, and so I'd put the chain through the 100-pound. And you just don't see people doing this, but I would do it. I'd take that 100-pounder. And during my circuits, I used to have a different type of circuit I would do. I would do more of an Arnold type workout. But during that, I would use the weighted dips right there with 100 pounds. And I would do sets of 10, 15, 20 plus with a 100-pound weight around me. And I was weighed 210 pounds then, probably, at least 210, probably 210, 212. And I'm doing 100-pound weights. And so when the WWE guys were in town one time, I was down there, I was doing that. And Steve Kern of the Fabulous One, Mr. Kern. I met him in the Big Show, and there was Kurt Angle. There's quite a few different wrestlers down there, but Mr. Kern come to me, and he's like, he couldn't believe it. I mean, he had not seen somebody use that 100-pound weight right there to do dips like that. And I mean, I'm nailing them out, and so we get to talking about three-way neck machines and other things. And the next thing I know, he's like, well, you know what? I've got some tickets for you. And I'm like, okay, that'd be great because they were going to be at the Allman Arena, and so I didn't think about what the tickets were going to be. I thought, okay, give me some free tickets, and so I called my buddy B-Ron. I said, hey man, let's go up there. Never in my life would I thought that we had the two best seats in the entire place. Mr. Carter gave me the best seats in the place just based on just doing. Just from somebody I met when I was in there lifting and doing things that are different. When you push yourself, I mean you can do things like that. So I mean I would advise using the 100-pound weight between your legs doing dips, but it's very possible. You just have to work at it. It's really hard. It's not anything easy, and you can easily hurt yourself doing that. But it's something that's come natural to me because I have really strong triceps. I've been working out for many years. But at the end of the day, I mean strength training can transform life in so many ways. I mean, there's so many different methods. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach to this podcast, we're going to attach a practical application segment to where you can break things down and you can look at it from a practical application of the types of workouts that, we looked at today. And, keep in mind, like I said, I've worked out with a lot of professional bodybuilders and athletes over the years. And so, I could see, the difference in, elite athletes and regular athletes, but you can grow and you can, get to your peak performance. And in the next one, we're going to go over workout strategies from some of the all-time greats. We're going to look at Mike Metzger, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ronnie Coleman, and a couple more, but we're going to look at their strategies and how that could be practically applied just as well, utilizing some of their strategies to help you grow and help all of us get to our peak performance. But my name's Brad Young, and this has been the Peak Performance Podcast. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.